Hello, everyone. Welcome to Trina Solar Live at Intersolar. My name is Derek Kowalski, and I'm working for Trina Solar as team leader of the utility segment for Northern and Central Europe. And I've brought together here with my colleague, Ewan. Ewan, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Ewan Anson. I'm working with Trina Solar Europe as well in the distribution team. And like Derek, I am team lead for the North and Central European zone.
And together we have today some questions that we want to answer for you on the market in Europe and the trends that we see for solar deployment, as well as some of the challenges we see facing and how we've overcome those as Trina Solar.
Hi, so the key markets for Trina Solar in Europe, from our side, I mean, the first thing to say is that Trina are well represented in all regions and all markets throughout Europe. We've got a diverse and a widespread team of sales managers and also support colleagues. But really the key markets by way of volume, I would say would be Germany, Spain, Netherlands, France, Poland and Italy. We also see growth markets as well across Europe that are coming more to the fore now, these being Eastern Europe, Sweden, and also a resurgence in the UK. I don't know, from a utility side, Derek, how would you feel?
Yeah, I think we tend to see some of the same markets, several markets like Germany, Spain, and Holland being traditionally strong in the utility scale segment. We also do see new markets emerging, just like you have mentioned. For us, these would be Poland, the UK coming, and as well as Greece. And main reason for this is because the cost of solar has become so competitive versus other sources of energy. And as you mentioned, we've also increased and a dedicated team for the utility segment of sales colleagues and increased this team to be closer to our key markets and also our key customers in understanding their needs.
So for 2022, within the residential and the C&I sector, I think the biggest driving factors for solar deployment can be summed up pretty much in 5 different points. The first point, we've got the increased cost of grid supplied electricity. And in every country throughout Europe, the price of electricity is increasing and is still forecast and scheduled to do so in the future. I think the decarbonisation targets that we have for countries within Europe as well, they really drive the message that electricity and power needs to be sourced from sustainable sources. That will help push the deployment for solar and help benefit us all. The independence from the national grid, using co-location as battery storage as a perfect example. We have a lot in the residential sector of people looking to co-locate storage and solar within a residential setting so that they can reduce the reliance on the national grid. What we see from the solar is we actually see the requirement to charge the batteries increase in the size of systems that are needed on a residential setting. And that really goes hand in hand with Trina's philosophy and Trina's targets of increasing power output, increasing the module power classes as well. The higher power class that we look at, that is a uniform requirement across all markets, and that will help drive the solar deployment, and that's something that we fully support at Trina Solar. And then we also see more and more requests of life cycle analysis and low carbon coming from the specification in the C&I sector. We see a lot of people looking to understand the manufacturing process and also the kind of circular economy within solar PV as well. And that's really coming from, like I say, a specification in the commercial rooftop side. From a utility side, I don't know, Derek, have you got more that you can add on to that?
Yeah, I think if we look at the utility segment, then traditionally the segment has been driven by government policy and country-specific targets. As you mentioned, the decarbonization, that's similar here for utility. Our driving markets have been always there where the governments have put in policies in place. However, what we're seeing right now is an emergence of the PPA market, so power purchase agreements, and this means that the projects are financed and sold based on the cost of electricity out of the project itself and is no longer subsidized by government necessarily. And to achieve these kind of low costs, obviously the drive to the higher watt classes has been important, as well as increasing system output and in order to reduce the LCOE for these calculations. We also see from an investor perspective, so coming from the end customer side, we're seeing more and more money coming into the renewable energy sector. And this is specific to targets or wishes of ESG, meaning environmental, social, and governance requirements. And as the technology of PV is already a proven and known technology since years, the investment and banking community is very safe with investing in solar PV plants and assets. And this is also driving the growth to the market and the attractiveness of solar in the industry.
Thank you. So the potential bottlenecks that we see for increased deployment of solar, they really can be brought in within a few key points to discuss just now. First one being the ongoing global logistics issues. We all see and we've all encountered the global logistics issues with shortage of container space on vessels, increased cost, and also delay in dispatches coming from Asia to key markets such as Europe. So this really delays deployment and realization of projects. It also increased cost. Now, unfortunately, with the current high cost, that also then makes any financial decisions from our C&I partners, especially where they're operating maybe under a PPA contract, make it very, very difficult to realize at the moment because the fundamentals of that calculation have actually changed. What we also see is we see a return of inflation due to the recovery of key economies globally, that's post-pandemic. And high domestic demand from China that historically is always strong in Q4, and that could lead to some additional bottlenecks in terms of supply Europe. The way that we're working at Trina to help overcome these is we have the larger wafer products that are bringing higher power classes. By doing that, we look to drive down cost of systems by a reduction in BOS and therefore a lower LCOE or a levelized cost of energy. The increased production capacity at Trina will also help. It will make higher volumes available quicker, and it will assist in faster completion of projects and portfolios from our partners. And then the logistics framework contracts that are being set up at the moment will allow us to give much more clarity to partners on deliveries and also secure contingency rates, so secure capacities on vessels at lower shipping rates scheduled for Europe. I think that from a residential and a C&I point of view, they're kind of key points, but again, pass to Derek on the utility side of things.
Thanks, Ewan. I think we're both struggling with the increases of cost of materials and logistics. On the utility side, it's no different. This has definitely dampened our growth in the market this year, and many of our projects are being delayed into later time, mainly into 2022. But it's more than just the absolute level of the increases. Also, the constant uncertainty that we've experienced this year on the price levels have made a lot of projects difficult to calculate because of the ever-changing prices. And as Ewan also mentioned, the same goes for PPAs or returns on projects. Some of the returns that have promised to investors might no longer be possible at that level because of the increase in cost. The interesting thing, however, is that most projects are still profitable, and therefore it's only a question of time when these then get materialized or then put into construction once the financial models have been updated and adjusted according to the new cost levels. What's also interesting as an industry, for years, we've had to fight against the claim of being too expensive or traditional utilities doing everything in their power to block our success. I think what's interesting to see now in the last couple of years and going into next year is that these same utilities now want a piece of our market and are also adapting themselves to be successful in our own market. But we will have other constraints, obviously, one of them being the grid constraints. So in many countries where solar is being put on the grid, we're reaching maximum deployment at site, which means the grid needs to be upgraded and is not always possible in the timeframes that we need for the deployment, as well as permitting issues and local bureaucracy that we also hear from our customers that local sites take forever to get the permitting through, and this delays obviously the growth in our utility segment.
So from Trina point of view, looking at the next 2 quarters by way of the stock availability to Europe, the supply, production capacity, and product cost, we still see that the Chinese market demand will influence European product availability. Again, as we've mentioned previously, Q4 tends to be a very, very strong demand in China, and that does actually add additional pressures to supply to Europe for the volumes that we require ourselves. This will continue throughout Q4. It also indicates, though, that the cost should remain mostly stable. We very rarely see cost decrease in Q4, and we also expect to see the demand carry into Q1. And where the cost base is, we are actually predicting short term, maybe a little bit of stability on the cost base for supply for product into Europe. There's a lot of discussion at the moment within the industry and within partners, all about the new forecasted silicon capacity coming online. The information that we have speaking with our colleagues at HQ is this is really only expected to come online late Q2 earliest. So really from our side, the shipping and the logistics side is going to remain under pressure. The production cost and the actual cost base into Europe should remain relatively stable. And then to overcome this moving into next year, we're looking forward to the new silicon capacities being available, but also the additional module production capacities being available from Trina and our new production lines. Derek, do you want to add on to that as well?
Sure. So for the utility side, we're making to order, so we're working with customers already for projects that will begin first half of 2022. They really just need to decide what technology they want to base their projects on. It's no longer the case that every product is the same, so design of the systems are very important. And we want our customers to include ourselves early in so that we can make the right suggestions as to what product fits their needs. Many projects and requirements, or many projects will have requirements to get built in first half of 2022. They have time limits, they have constraints on that. And therefore, we do expect the utility market to be quite strong in the first half, definitely. And our Vertex series is in mass production with 3 different sizes of product, so we can cater well to the wishes of our clients. As well as we're going to be launching here at Intersolar the new N-type product. So come and watch that segment on here, on this platform. But it's based on the same platform as our current Vertex. So the switch from P-type to N-type will be very easy for our utility customers. And we're well positioned in this market, especially in Europe, and we're eager to take part in the next wave of growth in the coming years. So thank you for your attention, and I hope we were able to provide you some insight of Trina Solar. We are available for you at Trina Solar Live. You can meet our salespeople and staff if you have questions, as well as following us on our social media channels, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook.